And welcome to another Past Attraction. I am your director, Jeremy. And of course, my co-director that'll be also assisting me in this video, Mr. Tran. Hey, how you doing, man?
How's it going? Yes, I'm only here for the free liquid disc.
As you know, this is our show where we don't look forward, we look back. We look at all these past films and kind of have a fun conversation, open conversation about the movie that we picked and everything. And if people have noticed by now that for each director for our title, we kind of do our videos our own way. What do we think is a best way we want to present the movie to you and for the entertainment? So you will notice from the Super Mario Brothers that we done to the recent one after hearing this one is The Crow. So I hope you're excited for that because we are going back to 1997 to one of probably easily a forgettable one because not in a way of negativity, more of when you think of the actor Chris Farley, you think about only really one movie that he's known for, and that's Tommy Boy, right? Everything else is really like SNL because like looking at his filmography, he only really, as a star, only done 4 movies. You know, you got your Tommy Boy, Black Sheep, the movie we're going to be talking about today, which is Beverly Hills Ninja, and of course his 1998 film Almost Heroes. And one thing I did notice going into this movie is the director. He is known for doing more of the Adam Sandler films. So Happy Gilmore, Big Daddy, Billy Mason, National Security, which I didn't know he did that one with Martin Lawrence. And then he did, of course, The Grown-Ups. And, of course, the worst review by fans and critic films, probably up there as of all time, I would say. Nam, you can agree or disagree. And that is Jack and Jill. So...
that one got poo-pooed on.
Yeah, I never personally seen it because I didn't think it was that funny in the trailer. And based on critics, it's not one of those, it's so bad I want to see how bad it is. I just don't want to see it. I just don't want to see it. But what's interesting is about all these movies, I'm telling y'all, because as he directing this film, Beverly Hills Ninja, I realized something about the movies that he directs. I'm not a huge fan of that comedy. I guess not as much as I thought. Happy Gilmore is a gold for me. Love Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison, it's pretty good for his way. Yeah. Big Daddy it's okay. I think it could be a guilty pleasure going into that. But when it comes to the later Adam Sandler films that this director did, was just not my jam. Even Grown Ups was kind of like, it's kind of like, oh, check out the SNL cast back for what it is, and then it got a sequel and all that stuff. So the reason I brought this up is because the same way he did those movies, it's the same way coming into this particular movie. Now, this ain't only the director's challenge for this film. It's Chris Farley, because now when I was looking into this, I realized this is actually the first only movie where Chris Farley is on his own. Now, the reason I said that is because, in Tommy Boy and Black Sheep, you had David Spade. That was his co-person. He was there to, play off of Chris Farley. But in this movie alone, even with Robin Shou and Chris Rock, they were there, but they weren't there. Like Robin Shou playing as Gobei as the brother per se of Chris Farley's character Haru, that is a white kid that end up, I guess, due to a shipwreck, he ends up being being up ashore, meeting this group of ninja clan, and got raised there. So Robin Shou, his goal was he's supposed to be there for him, but not be there for him per se. But I guess what I'm getting at here, going into this, is the challenge is can Chris Farley carry this movie by himself? Because Chris Farley always played the same type of character, and you've seen this in Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. Nam, is he plays a character where he plays the clumsy idiot. Like every time he does, every time, for all the good things he does, all the bad things happen to him. He always plays his clumsy. And this one is up to a 10 in Beverly Hills Ninja. So did Chris Farley, to me, carry this movie? Did it work for Chris Farley by himself really doing this? The answer is no. For me, this movie felt like it was trying a little bit too hard. This movie was trying to be funny for every 2 or 3 minutes. Yes, it has some charm. Not going to throw that out. It has some charm and stuff. But the problem with this is the Chris Farley works better with a partner, which seen as by himself, all these ideas that they were trying to get him to do, all these comedy skits that he was doing through the whole thing didn't work well with me the way I thought it was. I would say the last part of the movie was probably the most entertaining part because it was the big fight scene, and there was just a lot of like funny things that he did at the beginning of the movie that finally kind of came around with the whole like the training, and he keeps hitting his brother Gobei every time he was practicing and everything like that to this point. So that's kind of like the highlight before we go a little bit further in. Do you agree or disagree with about that point of view of the director, let alone Chris Farley, not really carrying this film? Or do you think he carried this film? Did he need more help? What's your outlook of that?
I mean, kind of going back to the director piece real quick. I know you were talking about it. It's interesting, right? Because especially here in the 90s, where you and I kind of grew up, like this was kind of the rise of like, I wouldn't say the rise, but like a new generation of like the slapstick physical comedy.
Yeah, especially the new cast of SNL. Right.
Yeah.
There goes the Dan Aykroyds and the Eddie Murphys and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was kind of out with the new, and this is where we got more of like Chris Farley doing the physical comedy, Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler, Ben Stiller,
Mike Myers.
In a lot of ways, Rowan Atkinson, which to me, obviously is more British because he did Mr. Bean, but for that time period, physical comedies was kind of like that thing, like the slapstick comedies were like the thing, where it was like Robin Hood Men in Tights in '93, all the Jim Carrey movies like The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Liar Liar, Tommy Boy Black Sheep, Ace Ventura, Waterboy, like he said, like you mentioned, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison, Something About Mary. So I'm not quite as surprised that they did more of a slapstick style comedy like this, like the director. Because it was just kind of the thing that during that time, right? Because we don't see it as much now, in the 2020s or even in the 2010s. So during that time, it was kind of like, hey, let's roll one out. We're gonna see if it's gonna hit, and people are gonna like it. People are gonna dislike it. I don't disagree with you there with Chris Farley having an opportunity to carry a movie on his own without like an actual sidekick character who was like the serious dry humor guy, which was David Spade and like everything else that he had done. Robin Shou, he was his first role after Mortal Kombat, right? So you kind of wanted to see how he was going to handle things in this movie as the serious guy. You can see him be the serious guy, but as far as comedic, like timing and relief, you don't really see it that much. And I think that does add to the whole lack of what this movie was missing, part of what this movie was missing. But I will tell you, somebody who disagrees with you though, right? Christian Bale, because he considers this his favorite comedy.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. At least that's what he said, even though he's only seen it twice.
Okay.
I do agree with you. I do feel like there was a lacking aspect of Chris Farley just carrying the film, and I think Chris Farley felt that same way too after watching the movie.
Yeah, it's interesting when you said that all those named movies, because I think that's the thing was missing was Chris Farley wasn't able to diverse his style comedy, right? He was always pinned as the clumsy, overreacted, over-the-top person. Say compared to Jim Carrey, that kind of got a little bit of diverse, from The Mask, Liar Liar of Ace Ventura, right? At least, yes, he's still slapstick, but he got to be a little bit different in each one. Chris Farley felt like, hey, this could have been the same character in Tommy Boy and Black Sheep, just this time he's a ninja, right? That's the way I see it. And so, but I do like the concept, right? I personally do. I like the idea of he's this white guy that ends up being part of this ninja clan, which I thought, in ninja clan they're supposed to be well hidden, but that totally went away when the girl of interest came in the picture and she found the place like it was nothing. But I like the concept of he was always a failure, and he really wanted to prove himself. Like, the map was there, the idea was there. I was there for the ride. It was just some of the decisions that they made, I guess, didn't work for me. And in that hour and 25 minutes, they did a lot in an hour and 25 minutes. I'm talking about from the moment from the clan at the dojo to going to Beverly Hills to going from the hotel, the strip joint, the Chinese restaurant, the warehouse. Like, there was a lot of stuff that they did in hour 25, which that's why it kind of, for me personally, it felt long because it was just not funny enough to me that it just felt like a long road. It's like, oh, well, that one missed. Here comes another one. This is going to be a long trip for this movie because this hour and 25 felt like an hour and 50 minutes based on how it was not making me laugh through all this. But I knew that at least they were punching up, right? At least they were going for it. Like, that's what I felt like. We're going big with this. Even Chris Farley going as, do I say, probably doesn't work now for a lot of people that watch the movie with him disguising himself as an Asian person and acting Asian in that Chinese restaurant and then fighting everybody with two giant fish. So, take it how you want it for that. But I would say, based on the pace of the movie, yeah, every 2-3 minutes I saw was just trying to push a joke in there somewhere for Chris Farley to do something. Especially, I'll give you one example. The scene was when he was trying to show off between the girl of interest. And, from the scroll to trying to show his moves to everything he touched was just breaking. Like, every time it was like something going. My question is, do we think that was the best idea? Do you think it would have been better if they had a little bit more breathing room for every joke, or do you think they should have just kept going with that pace? I think that was the make or break it for me for this film.
I mean, all right. So you said an hour 25. Officially, I think it was an 88-minute runtime, which is an hour 28. Which, to me and Jeremy, perfect runtime, right? Because even a bad movie can go away quickly, and you're okay with that.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like it was that quick.
Yeah.
and Jeremy hit it right on the dot. It didn't feel like it was that quick. And I think the reason why it didn't feel like it was that quick was because it was not just because it was like a bunch of things happening all at once, but because a lot of things just didn't hit. Like, it didn't hit, and it was, I wouldn't say boring. It was very... To steal a phrase in 2023, it was very cringe.
You got a cringe? I got some cringe, but not all the way through for me.
Oh, yeah. No, to me, like, every time he was with any other person of the opposite sex,
okay,
it was horrifyingly cringe.
And I bet you the highlight one was definitely the strip joint.
Oh, horrifyingly cringe. Just every bit of it was, like, just cringe. But I mean, when he was with like Robin Shou or the Sensei or with Joey or everybody else, Chet Walters, like, that didn't seem as bad nor near as bad as it was when he was with like the little kid on the airplane and with the love interest, like or Sally Jones or Alison. Like, those scenes to me felt like they stretched forever because it was just so hard to watch him just try to, like, either try to like impress her, which I mean I get, right? If you have the mentality of like a teenager, that's kind of what we do, is like we're trying to impress them, trying to flex or whatever else. But I mean, you even get to the part where he is like where he has the secret mushroom thing. Will Sasso passes away, dies, and then he just like he starts laughing and he just falls on top of her, and then he's just like, I wasn't trying to get in the temple, I just wanted to see the temple.
Yeah.
Then I was just like, oh my God, please move on.
Yeah.
Please move on. I don't need to be here for this. So I felt like the cringy moments to me, or the movie moments that were bad, that were just so bad that it stretched.
Okay.
It felt like it was taking so long, and the areas that were okay, like it went smooth, it went fine. like some of the like I think what you were saying, like the end of the movie was the part that you liked the most because like it was a little bit more action oriented. And I think that's a fair statement because I felt like that was the part that went the fastest.
I can agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably because we were kind of entertained with everything that was going on. You know, he had finally reached his point of being a ninja, which was kind of funny. Especially when the sensei was just like, you know, a ninja, called him a ninja, and he was like, "You called me a ninja," and the sensei was like, "I guess I did."
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking to myself because we had just watching, you and I just watched The Blackening, right?
Yeah.
And I was just thinking if it's some white dude was like, you know, trying to be a homeboy like the entire time, and like one of the black characters is like, "Well, you're my N word," and he's like, "You said the N word to me."
That
Like,
acknowledgement, that
yeah,
basically,
that acknowledgement is like,
yeah.
I guess I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, that was the
So-
first thing that came to my mind. I don't know.
So okay, so I know probably people are when they watch this, they're probably going to be like, "Hey, I think that movie's funny. I think it's great." So like, I do want to say what are some parts that did actually caught me off guard and I laughed about. So I'm not going to walk away and say this movie did not make me laugh in certain points. I'm just saying overall, there was more misses than hits. And I will say a couple of hits from me personally was I love the meditation when he comes back to reality. Because when he comes back, the force is so big that he just runs into something. I think it's so funny because I think it's just universally for me, fat people or big guys that fall is just funny to me. I don't know why. So like when he's outside and he comes back to reality from his meditation, he just flies through the window. I was like, I think this is so funny because he can't control it, so he just comes back in full force. I think that's funny to me. I don't know why. Because I'm never ready for it. For some reason, I should be ready for it. They really set it up for you, like it's gonna happen again. But I'm just never. I'm like, okay, they'll just do it once, right? It was funny at first, but then like, oh, okay, we're gonna keep doing that. Okay, all right. I think another one that did make me kind of chuckle a little bit was his handling with the weapons of any sort. I thought that was kind of funny, like because like he pulls out two swords out of his chest. I'm like, how are you walking like this with like two big ass swords, you know? And then the fact that he has like when he was trying to meet up with Sally in the house with the antagonist, and Gobei was on the roof and he's trying to throw the hook grapple up there, and and he just doesn't get right, and then Gobei had to like hold on so he could climb up. His way for weapons was pretty funny, the way he fell with them. I thought that was funny in his own way. Now, I think the other thing is really funny is the funniest thing. I think Gobei has the funniest part is the part where at the temple where he used the smoke bomb and took his place. And then not even like 5 seconds, he's talking to his master in meditation saying, "I already broke out of jail and I don't know what," and he's upset. I'm like, that's like, wow, you did that quick. I thought that was funny for what it is. Those are my biggest highlight. I think the cringiest for me had to be the strip joint. I think out of everything in there, the strip joint was the cringiest because it was unnecessary for some reason. That and actually, there's one other one. I'm sorry. I do like the driving when Chris Rock had to drive him and he was blindfolded. I thought that was funny for what it is. The first time around, I didn't need it the second time around, but the first time around was funny. But yeah, the cringiest to me was the strip joint. It was unnecessary. It did nothing for it. It was just a reason for Chris Farley to strip because it reminds me of the skit with him with Patrick Swayze with the Chippendale dancer. I think that's what it was. So that's probably some of the highlights for me that made me laugh. Was there anything for you that really made you laugh or chuckle or something like that?
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily chuckled or laughed per se. I will give him some credit. I think what it was is like I think at the very beginning of the movie, there were some moments where I was just like, you got to give him credit for some of the stuff that he did, right? Because all right, so he was using the Kyoketsu Shoge, which is that weapon, that chain weapon. And he throws it up above the little rafters, and it wraps around him, and he's just like hanging.
Yeah.
And I was like, no,
you
know what?
I forgot about that. That's funny. Yeah.
That takes some skill. That takes some skill.
Yeah.
And then the hot pot scene where like he had to get the two tattoos on his arm, and the fact that he was like, oh.
I think you can relate to that too. We can all relate to like, there's no way.
Yeah, you're looking at him and you're just thinking to yourself like, I don't know, man. And you know he's thinking I'm not going to be able to do this, but he goes, he does it for like a hot like 2 seconds before he drops the hot pan, like because he has to be able to actually lift the hot pan, and then it falls over. So I give him a lot of credit for doing those two things. The other thing too is like I was amazed that he was actually able to go to the Enlightenment plane.
Okay.
Because he wasn't a ninja, or the sensei was just like, nah, we're not going to make him a ninja. Then he was able to get to the Enlightenment plane and just kind of, he couldn't control it, but he got there.
Yeah, that's why I laugh so hard when he goes back. He can't control it because then when he gets back, he's just flying across the room.
I was like, you know what? I'll give you some credit because I mean you got to give him credit for at least getting there, right?
Mm-hmm.
I will say, other parts of the movies that I did like about this, or that I was okay with it, was actually the support characters in this movie. I was okay with Gobei. I really like Gobei, or Gobei. I'm sorry, not say Gobei. I like Gobei, Ramashaw's character, the sensei.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy Nobu, which was the Martin Tanley's
okay,
like,
kind of henchman.
Yeah, the henchman, the main henchman.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought he was pretty BA.
Mm-hmm.
For the role that he went. They all did kind of go out like a Jedi did in like Star Wars. All the good Jedis did in Star Wars. It kind of went out pretty rough. I did actually kind of enjoy Joey's character, Chris Rock's character.
Okay.
In the movie, I thought he brought something a little bit different, especially, kind of just like, oh, dude, I want to be a ninja, all that stuff too.
I feel like that was a missed opportunity, though, right? Did you feel like a missed opportunity to use him more?
I don't disagree with you. I do feel like they could have played with him more in this movie. Though I will say when he made it through off the palm tree and into the building and knocked that one dude out, like the way he landed, I was totally thinking that's how they land in like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah.
Should just let him run and then should bring up the little grayed out like scene and just bring up wasted. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Will Sasso's character, Chet Walters, the guy that died from the magic mushrooms. Now he wasn't necessarily funny to me, but he was one of those guys that if you haven't met someone that was similar to that in your real life, like he feels like somebody that you should know, like like I know a guy that's similar to Chet, so it made me like kind of laugh because I was just like, huh. Okay. That is kind of real.
I'm sorry. Go on. I'm sorry.
No. And in the main villain, Martin Tanley did fine. I think he did enough to kill people to kind of give you that he's a villain.
I think I disagree only because I think the writing didn't do enough for him to have more conflict with Haru in this movie. Yeah, because he needed, like, Chris Farley needed to click with somebody, and Gobei wasn't enough for it, and Chris Rock's character Joey was not up for it. So I was hoping that antagonist would be the one that pushed back and forth him, but it ended up being more of a scavenger hunt, more than clashing each other. And I thought that was going to happen somewhere in the strip joint where they were going to acknowledge each other and kind of conflict a bit more, but I feel like by the time they finally did it, it felt like a little too late, and I wish they got more into it a little bit more, because granted, it'd be different if Chris Farley, if Haru was a good ninja, but he's not, so he was in everybody's face, so it would have been interesting, especially when he basically said like, wait, you're a ninja? Like, I thought that was going to be the conflict, that he was going to kind of make fun of him because of that. Yeah. I think that's what I wanted more. I wanted the antagonist to really have fun messing with with Haru for this film, but he ended up being more forgettable for me towards the end because all the other characters kind of took over. It ended up being more the journey with the characters more than like, why do I care what this villain does? He's just doing bad things, but he's not shining to me. You even mentioned his henchman stood out more than he does to me. So.
Okay. I mean, and I get that. I think Tanley, as far as what he did in the movie, was fine. Like, as far as the relationship that you're talking about, the stuff that you're wanting to see more, I think I would have wanted to see more of Nobu do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
with Haru.
Yeah.
And less Tanley on that, but I was fine with what Tanley did as far as
Okay.
like killing the people, telling them is like, well, you effed up. You should have gave me my stuff. Like you should have got it for me, and he just killed a bunch of people. So I mean, it was kind of like to me, he did what a villain should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like if he had to mess with Haru, I think it would have been more beneath him that he would have let Nobu do it, and then I would have loved to have seen more interaction between Haru and Nobu, and then eventually get to Tanley, and it be like a more simpler conflict. But I don't disagree with what you're saying there. But I probably would have wanted to see Nobu more.
So overall, my final thoughts is, do I recommend this movie? Honestly, no. I don't recommend it because personally, I think it's just a movie where it's easily forgettable. Yes, it has some funny moments, but the cringe and the misses of some of the bits didn't work well with me. Especially if you've seen Tommy Boy or even Black Sheep, and you're seeing this after those, it just didn't work well. It shows that Chris Farley cannot hold a film for himself. But I will say, I will give this movie credit for really going for it, compare to Tommy Boy and Black Sheep, because this is one of the few ninja films in the 90s that is a comedy, because most of the martial arts and the ninja movies like this were really owned by the 80s. So to see this in the 90s is interesting. Now, I hope you can correct me and say if you could think of other ninja films in the 90s, but this is the one that really highlight to me the most out of that, besides, of course, your kids' movies of like The Three Ninjas and Surf Ninjas. But as a comedy, I guess this one is the only one I could think of that really stood out. But I'm definitely no on the recommendation of seeing this film. So those are my my final thoughts.
Gotcha. So this movie to me, I don't know. I kind of find it as a reverse engineering type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they were like, they listened to a handful of songs and they were like, let's make a movie and just put these songs in it.
I agree.
I
agree. They were really pushing tongue in cheek with the songs. Like, well, how many ninja songs and martial arts songs do we know? Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was like turning Japanese, kung fu dancing, kung fu fighting. Like,
yeah.
I felt that this movie was like, we like these songs, we want to make a movie and throw these songs in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you that this movie wasn't a good recommendation for me as well. I agree. I don't think it was very funny. I don't think it did very good as far as like the slapstick comedy and the physical comedy of it all. And what was funny is originally they wanted Dana Carvey to be the main character, Haru, which Dana Carvey made a movie before this, which totally flopped. So he was like, well, I don't want that to happen twice, so I'm not going to do this.
And what movie was that? Because there's a movie I thought later on that just bombed, and that was Master of Disguises. Is that the one?
that one bombed too. Okay. I think it was like Fools something.
Okay.
Like Fools something, and it bombed. And Dana Carvey would be one of those interesting ones we talk about that couldn't really be a lead role of a movie. One day we'll talk about it. But I don't recommend this movie. But what I will recommend is if you want a better version of this movie in general, like the idea of this movie, Kung Fu Panda. Okay. If you want to see a movie that probably what this should have been, Kung Fu Panda is probably going to be your best bet.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Because for the extra talk here, a remake, Jack Black would probably be the chosen one for that. If there was a live remake of this, Jack Black would be the perfect person for that. And honestly, I think that because Jack Black to me, he's not that slapstick, so he really relies on his acting to be the funny part. So that would have been an interesting thing. But shout out to Kristen Bell for his his favorite you said his favorite comedy?
His favorite comedy, yeah.
Yeah, shout out to him. I will have to definitely look into why he thinks that way. So,
beats me.
Okay. All right. I want to thank everybody listening to Past Attractions, and we will see you next time in the theater.